Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Well, it depends on the time you watch this video. But this video is a slideshow presentation which I did in our classroom today. And to enable you to catch up with all the information that I have explained about presentation skill, I create this video podcast. And the slideshow that you are watching in this video is exactly the same one that you have seen in our classroom this morning. So, without further ado, I'm going to start with presentation skills. Now, a good presentation is not a presentation with lavish multimedia or great smooth explanation, but a good presentation must be the one that has clear purpose which is meaningful to the audience. So no matter how excellent, sophisticated your presentation is, if your audience don't understand your presentation or if they fail to get your message, your presentation is not good. So, a good presentation is not just about appearance, more than that, it is about content. But before we talk further about content, I'm going to talk first about all the things that is related to the basic skills in presentation, namely the expressions, language that you should use in your presentation. There are three purposes of a presentation. A presentation can be a means of entertainment. It can also a means for delivering an information, or it can also means to persuade people. Now, for the presentation, for example, like entertainment, presentation for an entertainment purpose, usually presentation like the one we see done by stand-up comedian. That is a kind of presentation to entertain. A presentation to inform is the one where the speaker mainly stand in front of the audience to share information. So in an informative presentation, you are not trying to change people's mind, you just want to share information. But for a persuasive presentation, you don't just share information, you want to make people think and change their behavior. So it is higher than just informing. With persuasive presentation, you want to make people make action so they don't just listen but they also make action. So there are three purposes of a presentation: to entertain, to inform, and finally to persuade. So the first few minutes in your presentation are very crucial because if you want to be able to get their attention, the first 5 minutes, the first 10 minutes are very important. If your presentation is for 7 minutes, the first 3 minutes are very important. If your presentation is for 20 minutes, the first 5 minutes are very crucial because in the first 5 minutes, your listeners, your audience will be able to judge whether your presentation is worth listening or not. They will find out if your presentation is of good quality or not in the first few minutes. So it is very important for you as the presenter to create a good impression. You have to be able to build a good impression of your presentation so that your listeners, your audience will stay listening to you until the end of your presentation. How you do that? Well, naturally, by smiling, treating people warmly, be friendly, be polite, and then in the introduction, you have to introduce yourself, and you have to explain the purpose of your presentation. Even if the presentation is already scheduled, even if you already tell them about the agenda of your presentation, you still have to explain the purpose of your presentation. After that, we come to the expression. Now, the usual expression for greeting and introduction are the common ones that we already know, such as good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. You say, you can continue then. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Marcus. I'm from the Fix company. Or let me introduce myself. I'm Tuti Kairani and I'm from Procter & Gamble. So this is the way you greet your audience and introduce yourself. They are formal expression, but it is okay. Yeah, after all, this is a presentation, formal presentation, so you should be formal too. And when you introduce the topic, purpose of your presentation, you may say, I'm here today to present the benefits of joining Prudential, or I'm here to talk about our company outing plan. Or you may use going to. I'm going to talk about the cost of moving our company to another place. I just want to let you know that we have a new product. The purpose of my presentation is, so these are the expressions you can use to open your presentation. After you inform the purpose of your presentation, you also have to inform your audience about the duration. You have to tell your audience how long they are going to listen to you. I'm going to speak for about 5 minutes, or I'm going to spend 10 minutes of your time. This presentation will take 20 minutes, or my presentation will take 15 minutes. This is the way you inform your audience about the duration of your presentation. And your audience actually have the right to know how long they are going to sit and listen to you. Your presentation must have a good organization. If your presentation has good organization, your presentation will have a clear structure that helps your listeners to understand your talk. Even if they understand your talk, they will be able to get your message. So clear structure equals smooth presentation. If your presentation has no structure, then your presentation will be not smooth, because without outline, without structure, your presentation can go anywhere and your listeners will have difficulty following you. Besides, if your presentation has a good structure, it will help you in designing your slideshow and preparing your speech. So this is the way you organize your presentation. It must have a clear reason, clear purpose, must have a clear structure, and must have a good conclusion. I'm going to show you in a diagram. Yeah. So in simple way, this is the diagram of a presentation. Similar to writing an essay, it must have three parts: introduction, body, and closing. Now I'm going to dissect them. I'm going to dissect each part one by one to help you understand. In the introduction, we greet our audience, introduce yourself, explain your purpose, explain the duration of your talk, and giving outline. These are what you put in the introduction. If your presentation is 7 minutes long, your introduction should be 1 or 2 minutes. But don't take too much time in introduction, because the most important part of your presentation is in the body. If you spend too much time in introduction, then you will not have enough time to explain the body of your presentation. So just spend 1 or 2 minutes, but not more than 2 minutes. And then in the body, you explain the content of your presentation. If your presentation is divided to 3 parts, then you can spend 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes in the body. That's where you have to put much time in explaining all the details, all the arguments, all the reasons of your presentation. And then in the closing part, this is where you close your presentation and provide summary. So that's basically how you outline your presentation. You organize them in three parts: introduction, body, and closing. Now about the expressions, well, when you have greeted your audience, you have introduced your audience, yourself to your audience, you have explained the duration and purpose of your presentation. Then what expressions you can use to tell or to share outline of your presentation? You may say, my presentation is divided into three parts, or on this opportunity, on this occasion, I'm going to discuss three issues. There are four things that I want to talk about. I divide this presentation in three parts. Limit the parts of your presentation into three or four parts, because human brain, the short-term memory of human brain can only remember three things. If you explain five or six things in your presentation, your audience will be unlikely be able to remember all the six things that you put in your presentation. So limit parts of your presentation into three or four. When you introduce your topic, you may say, I'll start or I'll begin with a story about, then after that, or you can use the usual transitional words such as firstly, secondly, and when you come to the final part of your presentation, the most common one is using finally. So I'll start my presentation with the first benefit. Then another benefit of blah 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 blah. Finally, we will get profit da 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 da. So that's the way you organize your presentation using these transitional markers. How about Q&A? Well, it is common today to have Q&A session. There are two ways to have Q&A. You can allow your audience to ask questions in the middle of your presentation, which means they are going to interrupt you. Or you can let your audience to listen to you finishing your presentation, and then they can ask their questions. Uh, the expressions for that, if you want your audience to interrupt you, you can tell them, please feel free to ask questions at any time, or please interrupt me anytime during presentation. However, if you prefer them to ask questions after you finish your presentation, you tell them, I would be grateful if you hold any question until the end. Or if you have any question, please keep it until the end of my presentation. Now, personally, I prefer to have Q&A after my presentation because it allows me to explain and elaborate all the details in my presentation so that by the time they ask questions, I don't have to go back, refer back to things that I have explained. Besides, if you let your audience to ask question after you finish your presentation, you can do your presentation efficiently. You can finish on time and you have more time for handling their questions. If you let your audience to ask questions by interrupting you, then your presentation will not be able, you cannot finish your presentation on time. Yeah. So, but then again, it depends to you. It depends on you. You are the speaker, you decide. And to conclude your presentation, when you have finished the body part of your presentation, you can close your presentation by saying, in brief, I suggest that, or in conclusion, as a conclusion, we, or in short. So these are the way you close your presentation. So you give a summary, and then after that you say thank you for listening to me. That's the end of your presentation. All right, so that's about it. This is my video podcast of the slideshow that I have presented to you this morning. If you have any question, you can always ask question to me by sending your email to todo.liadpk@gmail.com. Sorry, todo.liadpk@gmail.com. That's it. Thank you for watching and see you again next week.